Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the DVT Insights session today. We are extremely pleased to have Valérie Waterschoot back with us again, representing Algolia after a fantastic introduction to Algolia the last time around. We did have numerous inquiries in terms of being able to see it, and I know there's been particular interest within some of the major e-commerce players here within South Africa and a few of our customers internationally as well. So we will have Valérie presenting and doing a bit of a demonstration today. As per usual in our DVT Insight session, we run for about 40 minutes or so, at which point we will also take questions from the audience. So if you do have any questions and you can access either the Q&A function or the chat function within the Teams environment, please do raise your questions there and we will pick those up. I'll moderate those and provide those through to Valérie, and she will, as usual, enlighten you and provide you with some wonderful answers to all those questions you may have. Valérie, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really looking forward to learning a bit more about Algolia and how it's positioned to help folks actually see that 300% increase in online sales conversions. There's something for all of us to find out just how does Algolia do that for you.
Exactly. Thanks for the introduction, Carl. So very happy to be here again. First session we did together with you guys was with a focus on some of the trends within e-commerce and tying that back to the ROI. But now we're going to focus a bit more on how you get to those numbers. So a little bit more hands-on and to demystify the buzzword of AI and AI search. So very happy to do that. If that's okay, Carl, I can kick it off, share my screen.
Absolutely, Valérie. Thank you.
Amazing. So is the screen visible for everyone?
It is up and running.
Amazing. Perfect. Maybe first let's go through a quick agenda of some of the topics that we want to cover today. So first, I'm going to recap some of the trends and numbers that we've spoken about last time for people that weren't there. Then we can focus on some of the things that make Algolia different, to then go to the case studies, some applications like an AI chatbot, AI recommendations, personalization, and showing that in our dashboard within Algolia, to then end with some next steps and take some questions from the audience. Now, first, this is a slide that Carl knows pretty well, but indeed this goes to show what the importance is of search. And actually, if you invest in search, well, the conversion rate for people that invest in search is about 300% higher than for people that are only browsing. And if you compare that to the investments that Amazon has made into their search, obviously they have huge teams to focus on that and build that out themselves. But they notice about an $800 million uptick in revenue just by focusing on that topic. Now, some of the other market trends that we've seen in the last, I would say, year and a half, ever since OpenAI came about, is that people are expecting a much more natural way to search and to interact with different types of applications, whether that's e-com or non-e-com, things like Netflix, Spotify. If you open the app, you want content to be relevant to you at any time. So that's where the personalization also comes into play. And that goes across all devices, right? No matter if you're on your mobile or if you are on a browser, for example. Now, with those changing market trends, we also did some interviews with our customers. And from those, we saw that actually 60% of our customers believe that adoption of AI will actually improve the customer shopping experience, which goes to say on how hot AI is at the moment. But now the big question is, how do you get there? Last time, we already discussed the walk, run, fly scenario. So how do you get started with something like search and merchandising? And how do you get to the optimized scenario? There's different types of scenario, but what could be done and the easiest way to get started is, if you want to start with search, to just replace your existing search experience with a solution that's more AI driven and purely focus on that search use case. To then, as a next step, what you can see here in stage 2, you can start to focus on recommendations. You can pull in different types of content into the search bar, like blog posts, FAQs, to then, as a result, reduce the number of incoming support tickets, for example. And as you can see, those are different types of use cases that could also cater to AI search. And then as a last step in the third scenario, that will be then to start using all the AI features, but also use Algolia in an omni-channel setup, where, for example, even if you have any in-store screens where people can look through the assortment, that those are also being powered by AI, an AI search or merchandising solution. Now, from this walk, run, fly scenario, what we often see people that come to us before they start using Algolia, AI search is difficult. And what does AI search mean? That's something that will, as I said, demystify. But what we often hear is that it's difficult because you need a lot of data. It's very costly if you want to do it yourself. And it's specific to every individual company. So you know your own business best. But what we do at Algolia is that we have a lot of the data. And we also, if you capture click and conversion events, you can use that, send that to us, and we can use that for your personalization for your customers. But as a result, we can also make that very cost efficient and make it work specifically for your business. Now, as an example, why search is difficult, what you can see is a lot of the search engines, they typically match on a textual level. So what you can see here is, this is just a random example from the internet, but if you're looking for a long dress on this fashion retailer, what you can see is it matches here on long sleeve. Now, these products that you're seeing here are not necessarily long dresses, but it's just a keyword engine that is matching the long dress on whatever it can find. In this case, long sleeve dress for a kid, or this long sleeve turtleneck top, for example. So that's why it is important to move beyond the purely textual matching and move to a more data-driven solution that understands what your customer is looking for at any given moment. Now, a few of the things that are important and a few of the differentiators with other solutions, well, you saw it already, the data-driven aspect, but also speed, that I will show you some numbers about in a second, but also scale. So if you have certain peak periods, that's quite important as well. And also the ease of use. So ease of use for your developers who will implement it, but also for the business folks. If they want to set up a personalization strategy, they can easily do so. They can A/B test, they can create different rules. And I will show you that in a minute as well. Now, speed. Why is speed important? There's some studies being done by Deloitte here in this case, and they actually noticed that a 200 milliseconds delay in search actually resulted in a 16% reduction in conversion, which goes to show that having a very fast experience, no matter if that's search or loading of your category pages or the recommendations, that is really, really key for the experience. Now, to get to the really practical aspects, how can AI guide customers on their buying journey, and how can you get started today? Well, there's a few trends that are happening nowadays in the market. This is from some studies that have been done, but three of the key topics that we're also going to be discussing today. The first one being AI chatbots. Second, visual search, so being able to give recommendations via the image. And then the third one is personalization. And then the fourth one, augmented reality. We'll leave that for the audience for at home with their Google Lens or any of those gamification tools. Now, the first one, so about AI chatbots. Imagine you have a friend coming over for dinner and you want to cook a carbonara, or another use case, you're working on a construction site and you need some safety gear. So how would that work in practice? So let's just go to this demo environment here, for example, for the construction. Here I can interact directly with this chatbot. So this is an experience that was built by combining OpenAI with Algolia. So this is not an off-the-shelf product, but this is something that can be built by developers based on our API, and then combining the ChatGPT API into this demo environment. So here we were looking for safety gear to work on a construction site. So I need safety gear to work on a construction site. So then the chatbot will tell me, okay, this is actually what we need. You need a hard hat, some safety goggles, work gloves, shoes, and then some other things. So if we then look here, it's giving us exactly what we need, the safety goggles, the gloves, etc. And we can say, yes, can you add this to my basket? Or we can add it directly here from this interface. And then it's going to be added to my basket here, and I can simply check out. Other things that we do then here is showing related items, for example, that could be relevant to what is in the basket right now. So this is just one example more for the B2B space or construction. Another one is here. I have a friend over for dinner and would like to make a carbonara. Let's see what the recipe is that's coming up. So we need spaghetti, pancetta, eggs, parmesan, and black pepper. So would you like me to add it to your basket? Well, yes. And then it says, okay, thank you. I'm adding all the products to the basket. And if we then go to the basket, we'll see what magic has been done. Okay, perfect. So I can just check out and then I can get cooking with all the ingredients that have been added to my basket here. So these are perfect examples of some AI things that are quite new, but that can perfectly be built with an experience like Algolia. And happy to take any questions after the session, but I think this one's pretty exciting. Now, other examples, what we saw in the trends is also recommendations. So for example, visual recommendations. You can see here at the top, so there's this particular type of wallet, and then there's other wallets that are being suggested without you having to manually configure anything. So I can show you what that looks like here in our Algolia dashboard. But if I go here to this specific wallet, well, we can see that we're showing different types of wallets that could be suggested. And this is purely based on the image. So there's no tweaks, no rules, nothing. That's purely based on image recognition. Another example could be for bags. So for example, if somebody clicks on this bag, they could be interested in other types of bags that are similar. And again, this is also something that you can test out if you say, and that's something I'll explain at the end of the session, but if you want to import some of your product data into a trial environment in Algolia and test out this visual recommendations model, you're more than free to do so. And we can send you over the link after the session. Now, what you can see here is actually another model next to the looking similar, which is using the images, is complementary items. So here is an example from Gymshark. So imagine I'm interested in, let's say I'm interested in pink leggings. I look at this item and I'm not sure extra small will fit me, but let's put it in my bag anyway. And then we can see that there's other types of products that are actually suggested to wear together with this legging. So these tops, for example. So this is a model that's using the click and conversion events from everyone else across the website to suggest products that could be worn together with this type of leggings, for example. So that's also a really cool application. And if you look at the ROI that some of our customers have seen, Gymshark in this case, they had a huge increase in their order rate for returning customers, as well as the overall order rates across the website. Now, the next topic that was one of the trends for this year is personalization. So to look at why personalization is important, well, a lot of the companies, they actually see about a 20% increase in sales after using personalization. Also, 80% of shoppers are more likely to buy something if the content is personalized, and they're also willing to pay more for personalized content. Now, if we have a look at types of personalization, it could be, for example, if someone is looking for a trousers or a pants, well, in a different type of context, this could mean very different things. So someone who's going to the slopes to go skiing might be looking for different pants than someone that wants to go hiking. Here again, on the right, you can see different types of ROI metrics from some of our customers that have used personalization. Now, before I show you how you can set up personalization in the dashboard, I want to show you another example that I think we showed last time as well, but for those who weren't there. iBuyDirect, they are doing personalization straight from the search bar. So imagine if I'm looking for a Ray-Ban, this is all being personalized for my affinity. Now imagine if I open an incognito window, we don't know who the person is that is browsing, and we do the same. We click on the search bar. You will see that this looks totally different. And then the same, I'm looking for a Ray-Ban. This is a good mix of sunglasses and regular prescriptive glasses. to show you that this is the view that everyone will get before doing a search. And then the previous window here, this is then personalized based on my affinity. So when I'm going on a holiday, I'm probably going to buy one of these sunglasses here. Now, what does that look like and how do you set it up? Because personalization can often be very difficult or a bit of a buzzword in terms of, okay, how does that work then in practice? Well, it's actually fairly easy. The only thing you need to do is send click and conversion events to us. Here you can see in the demo environment a few examples of those events that can be adding to your wish list, opening a product detail page, adding something to your cart. So once those events are sent to us, you can select them here from this overview and add them to the personalization strategy. So then the other thing that you can do is here in the facets, you can choose, okay, I want to take the brand into account, but also the gender or categories. So that means if somebody clicks on a product, we extract those facets from it. So it could be if it's a man versus a woman, we can extract different affinities and personalize in a different way. So first events, then you can select, okay, what are the attributes that we want to use for the personalization? And then you can simply choose the impact. So you can say, okay, we want to have a very subtle personalization impact or very heavy. That really depends. And that's also something that you can test out if you want. Now here we can simulate what the effect would be of personalization on this specific user. So on the left, you can see the ranking of all the products by default. Now you can see here that there's a lot of re-ranking being done. And on the right, you can see the final output of products. Now we see, for example, that the product who is now ranked in the 4th position is actually pushed up 15 spots. And I'm interested to know why. So you can see why that was. Well, this person is interested in men's products. This is also pushed up because, again, this is from the male category. Now, if we look into the profile of this user, because I just copied the user ID, we can see what has been happening behind the scenes. So we have extracted 2 events. So this person clicked on a product detail page and opened it. And based on this, we can extract the profile. We can see that the person is interested in men's clothes from a brand named Gangra. So based on this, we build up these profiles of your customers. These can also be anonymized. So also from security and GDPR purposes, that shouldn't be a problem at all. So this is really a cool way and how you can do personalization. Now, next to AI personalization, there's a whole suite of other AI tools that could help augment the experience. Other things are automatically tracking synonyms, which is something I can show you, or re-ranking to understand trends. For example, if you're selling barbecues, you're not going to sell a lot of barbecues in the winter, but you are going to sell them in the summer. So that is something that the AI algorithm can pick up to automatically boost products that are trending at that moment in time. So to show you on how that looks like, I can show you here for the dynamic re-ranking. So imagine we're looking for a sneaker. Well, on the left is the default ranking, and then on the right, this is being re-ranked. I can see a lot of running shoes here. Probably a lot of people have been running again to prepare for some marathons. So that's the reason why these products are actually pushed more higher to the top. Now, what I spoke about with the AI synonyms, this is an example of that. So we will automatically track synonyms based on the behavior of your users. So here we can see shoes and sneakers has been used by the users on the website. So then we can suggest, okay, shoes and sneakers are actually synonyms. And then as a business user in the platform, you can say, okay, I want to accept or decline this as a synonym. So after we've seen the personalization, the dynamic re-ranking, the synonyms, I can give you a little bit of an overview of our merchandising suite. So we've just seen all the AI capabilities that will automate a lot of those things for you, so that you don't need to do anything if you don't have the time, the resources, or the knowledge to do so. But if you do, however, if you want to make any tweaks, you want to dive deeper into the analytics, and you want to create any rules, because, for example, you have a collaboration with a specific brand that's paying you to be in a certain spot, then you can totally do so via the Merchandising Studio. So in the Merchandising Studio, you get a full overview of all the most important analytics. You can do so for search, but more so also for your category pages. So here you can see your top category pages, top results, and you can dive even deeper into them, so on a more granular level. Now imagine we go to the merchandising suite here. So I'm interested in changing the sneaker page, or if somebody looks for a sneaker, I have a collaboration with a specific brand and I want to change some things here. So you can change the whole ranking strategy if you want, so per individual category or per search result, but you can also create certain rules. So if you go to the merchandising suite here, you can see, okay, if somebody looks for sneakers, I actually want to boost a specific brand. So I want to boost the brand Hogan, for example. So brand is Hogan. Then automatically the Hogan shoes are going to be pushed to the top. I can say, but this I want to put here. This one I don't want to see. And then you can choose to add a date range. For example, you have this collaboration with the brand Hogan until the rest of the month. If you apply this, then this will be into effect straight away. So you don't need to wait for a reindexation, but you can also set a specific time frame. You can say, okay, we're starting the sale and from midnight they should go live, for example. So these are all pretty cool ways to dive a little bit deeper into that. Another thing you can do is dive deeper into the analytics. You can compare desktop versus mobile and do a lot of analysis that go deeper than what you would usually see in Google Analytics. Now, you've seen all these type of features, and I think from that it's pretty clear that we need to move away from purely matching on a keyword basis, and that we need to move to understanding, okay, what does your user need? But obviously you don't want to do that manually. You want to have a data-driven engine that takes a lot of the load away from you, and that's able to be relevant for all your different customers. To show you some examples on how we've done that with other customers, here you can see some. On average, we would say that we help increase revenue by 30%, depending on the use case, of course. But here you can see some numbers of companies that have actually exceeded that number. Now, what are the main metrics that we have an impact on? So we would say bounce rate, search usage, conversion rate, and average cart size. A lot of people ask, okay, why would you have an impact on the search usage? Well, that's actually pretty simple. If people see that the search bar works well, they will come back again and they will reuse the search bar. If they see that it doesn't work, well, they're not going to perform a second search and they will just go browsing and try to find what they're looking for in that way. Now, if you know that people that do search have on average a higher conversion with about 300%, I think it speaks for itself that you want to drive as many people to the search bar and to a search bar that is actually functioning like they would expect. Another example of an online grocer here in Europe is Flink. So they have a mobile app. Also, mobile is very important also in the e-commerce space. But they moved from an Elasticsearch type of implementation to Algolia, and they were actually live in 4 weeks. They do tons of different things, but also something they do is incorporate the geolocation of their users to boost certain stock levels in the hubs around them. And with that implementation, they actually improved the add to cart rate with about 76% and decreased the zero result rate with 60%, which means that there's about 60% more results being shown to their customers instead of showing we couldn't find anything. Now, we've gone through a lot of different things. I've showed you some things in the dashboard. I've showed you that we need to move from matching to really understanding. Some next steps that we could always suggest before we dive a little bit deeper into the Q&A is that we could always do a personalized demonstration. As I said, with the recommendations, you can even do that yourself if you just upload some product information in JSON format into a demo account. We can send you over the link. You can do so. We can also help you with that. I'm also more than happy to create digital audits of your front-end experience, like the example I gave you with the long dress. Or we could even run a business case. If we have access to your Google Analytics data, we just need read-only access, and then we can benchmark that with some of the metrics that I've shared from our customers to help you calculate the ROI. And then lastly, we could also do business user or tech user workshops to give you an understanding of what it would look like if you would use us on a day-to-day basis, or an implementation overview.
Fantastic, Valerie. I'm already got a couple of questions of my own. I'm just going to make sure that we make the audience aware again. So if you do have questions for Valerie, please do use the Q&A function, or alternatively the chat function. We'll pick up some of those questions there and pose them to you. Valerie, I was going to jump straight into like the AI capability and tools that are available these days. Incredibly powerful, but quite often folks are a bit at a loss on how to get started or how to actually make the most out of those. How do Algolia assist new organizations that adopt search as a service with you in order to understand how to properly use those and get the most out of it?
Yeah, that's actually a super good question, because we have different types of customers, right? We have customers that just implement this, they turn everything on, and then they never look at it again, which is completely fine. If that's how you want to do it, you can also like create your own rules and like do more in-depth A/B testing. And that's also something that our team assists with, because we have experience with working over 17,000 customers. We don't need to give those services in order for you to be successful, but it does certainly help. The thing is, with Algolia, we want to provide the tools to the developers and to your business people to be as much self-sufficient as possible, but we're always there to help with best practices. Now, as an example, what needs to be done first is you just index the data to Algolia. So we need to have a connection with either your PIM system or somewhere where your product information lives. As soon as that's sent to Algolia, you then need to configure the front end so that we are getting the click and conversion events, and that Algolia can be surfaced as the search bar. Once that's done, the textual aspect is something we take care of, as well as all the AI things. So the dynamic re-ranking with the trend detection, no work required whatsoever. The only thing we need is the click and conversion events. The rest the engine does. You still have visibility over how does it rank, why does it rank in a certain way. That's something you see in the dashboard. But other than that, there's no maintenance or rules or anything that you need to configure. With the personalization, there's some best practices that we provide as a company or as a team to help you set up the best personalization strategy. But even that, once you collect or send the events, you click which ones you want to use, and the engine personalizes for you. You can always tweak that. But where we see organizations start is just very simple search. After, if they want to move to the AI features, we need to have the click and conversion events. And then if they want to create rules and move into like the merchandising space, they can do so via the dashboard.
Fantastic. That certainly means that they've got experienced professionals working alongside them to actually make the most out of it. That's great.
Exactly.
And at DVT, we've worked with some of the larger retailers, particularly back here in South Africa, and we've seen how deep they can go into analytics in order to do sort of assortment allocations and optimization of the distribution across their stores. And I saw within your event side of things, and then the facet side, on the facet pieces, is geolocation a part of that can be brought in, so that you kind of go, well, we already know from particular store locations that if someone is within this area, they're more likely to buy certain sizing, certain colors, etc. Is that possible within the framework?
Yeah, or even something that we also do, we have a lot of companies that use buy online, pick up in store, or that want to see what is the assortment in the store closest to me, so that based on what their geolocation is, that we can suggest, okay, you're probably closest to this store, and then the assortment will be pushed accordingly based on the stock levels in that store. But that could be anything. That could also be popularity or personalization.
Great. And one of the things that I saw there that suddenly I'm interested in going into a little bit deeper, you spoke about doing audits for potential customers at the start. Could you just go into a little bit more detail on what's covered there and what you typically see in those audits?
Yeah, so we have two types of audits. The more visual audit, that's on the front end. So where we measure the experience on a few different levels. So we look at the speed, we look at the relevancy, we test out different queries. We look at the language capabilities, but also things like synonyms. And we test basically the whole experience, and then we map it against to our customers. And we say, okay, these are the current gaps in your experience. This is what we're doing with other customers that are similar to what you're doing. And this is how you can get from A to B. And then we help you get there, or can create a plan to get there together with you. But what we see is that a lot of the experiences that we audit still have that textual matching engine, where it's pretty obvious and pretty clear that, yeah, it's just matching on something in the title. And if your data structure is not good or not clean, yeah, then the results that are going to show up, it's garbage in, garbage out. So that's often something we see.
So I guess all the way back to, you mentioned my favorite slide, the walk, run, fly side of things. That foundation in terms of the data and the data quality is always going to be a critical element going into the engagement, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And to take it back to your slide, as I know that you like it so much, but indeed, so setting up the foundation, that's the most important thing. So just implementing the search, making sure the data that you send to us is good. But even the example that I showed with the image recognition, so even for the recommendations, well, in that case, your data structure or the cleanliness of the data doesn't really matter too much to us, because we're simply looking at the image. So the example with the wallets that I was showing you here, we're simply looking at the image and making then suggestions based on that. So the more capabilities that we're developing at Algolia, the less important the data cleanliness gets, and the more things can be automated for you.
More of that generative capability that basically brings in real AI capabilities to go, I recognize items A, B, and C as being similar in category and appropriate for that particular interaction. That's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
There was something else that occurred to me there. One of the typical questions that comes up, Valérie, in terms of any AI implementation is the question of, does this then replace the people? And I wonder if, in your experience, particularly for merchandisers and the folks that are typically the ones that have been doing promotional items and association of items, etc., have you seen within the many clients that you've adopted that it's meant an impact to jobs and roles for those people? Or have you seen that they've now had the time to really focus on fine-tuning and doing the type of things that perhaps isn't as administrative, it isn't as heavy in the calculation side? What's been the impact in terms of bringing in AI?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head exactly, because that's something where a lot of organizations are often a little bit hesitant and afraid as to, okay, how will that impact my team? And the thing is, it indeed will take out all the heavy lifting and all the administrative work, as in importing synonyms, diving into the analytics and trying to identify, okay, what is it that people cannot find? Well, Algolia will provide you with that list, and you can make your assumptions, and you can then help the business and say, okay, these are the products that people are searching for, but we don't have into the assortment. Maybe we need to add a synonym, or the engine is already suggesting you could add this as a synonym, sneaker versus shoes, for example. So it's doing the heavy lifting for you. You then need to translate it to your business, of course, in terms of the analytics. Now, what I've seen with my customers is that they actually add people as Algolia experts, for example, within the merchandising team, so that it's not really taking any jobs away. It's making sure that those people can focus on more value-adding tasks to create really additional revenue to the business, as opposed to maintenance and keeping everything up and running.
And in that expertise, is there a way that folks actually get to an understanding of how the AI is doing what it's doing? Or are they still going, oh, it's a black box and it's magic?
Exactly. And maybe that should be good if I share my screen again to show you what that looks like. But here for the AI re-ranking, and that was the same with the personalization, well, we can see exactly what's happening. So for example, with the re-ranking, this down jacket is being pushed up 7 spots. Now, Why is that the case? Well, this is because this number of clicks and this number of conversions. Same with the synonyms. Why is this synonym being suggested here? In this case, shoes and sneakers. Well, because we have a confidence score of 87%, and shoes is actually underperforming with 0.16% compared to sneakers, for example. Same with personalization. We can see exactly why that's happening in that way. So yeah, there's a lot of autonomy and a lot of visibility over all the different results, why they're ranking in a certain way. So if we go back to the visual merchandiser here, for example, shirt. This is just a demo environment, but what we would have in a real type of scenario is that for all the products here, even on the overview page, you can see exactly what's the click-through rate, what's the conversion rate of the specific product, which could help you then if you want to merchandise and change some things, so that you don't need to switch between all different systems from Google Analytics to other type of systems, but that everything is in one single place, and that helps you in that merchandising job.
That's fantastic. And one of the insights for me was really that build up of the individual profile that you're able to do either for an identified user or a category of user personas that you've got there. It's quite amazing that all that is being built up in the background.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty cool to see. We're working on a few new capabilities in that regards as well, but that might be for a follow-up session.
That was going to be one of my questions, the same as last time, is what's coming next. But before we get there, and I probably will bring that back as one of our last questions today, is just in respect to the symbiosis between Algolia search and all the information that you're generating and creating in the background. Are you also seeing that customers are modifying their front ends and the actual site presentation categories, etc., based on the analytics and information that they're getting out of search?
Yeah, 100%. Because even within the business, so for example, if you have a Flink, if they see the list of, okay, these are things that people are looking for and that they actually cannot find, well, they might add a new product to their catalog, for example. But we have a lot of customers that are doing a ton of A/B testing, either on the front end experience or are taking the insights in terms of what's trending at the moment to build out a new landing page or a new category page, or to completely revamp the front end experience. So there's a lot of A/B testing that you can do based on the insights that you get from the search and the user behavior that's in there. So yeah, a ton of insights that you can use.
Awesome. It may be an unfair question to ask, Valérie, but how, or is it possible that it goes wrong? And if so, how does it go wrong for organizations that perhaps don't do the right things when they're bringing AI tools in to bear on the process?
AI can be a black box, definitely. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're just putting in a random AI tool that does everything for you and you don't know why it's doing what, then that could be an issue. For example, imagine you're a marketplace or you sell a lot of different types of products. It will be very difficult for the AI model to identify which type of categories or products do we need to boost for this query, because the engine, yeah, also you don't have visibility over it, so you don't know if it is doing it in the right way, and you always know your business best. So it's always important to have the humans working in tandem with the AI, because you're still the boss over your company and your business. So that is something that's important, like keeping that visibility. And it is difficult. Like AI is a big buzzword, and I hope we were able to demystify some of that already today. But I would say always try to keep some level of control, and don't want to do too much at once as well. Start with something, look how it performs, A/B test, and then move on to the next.
Fantastic. If you don't mind, Valérie, would you bring up that slide again that kind of gives the AI stack in terms of the different elements that are there? Yeah, there are a couple of things that we perhaps can just give a little definition to in terms of the pieces, so that folks are aware of the depth of capability that's sitting in there in the Algolia engine. So for example, the neural search at the end there, I know we didn't touch on that too much, but just talk about that a little.
Yeah, definitely. So neural search basically means that imagine you're speaking to a human, you're getting a human response. So that will be very similar. So if you're interacting with the search engine, that you're getting a human type of response back, and that is really able to understand. And again, moving from that matching to understanding. So all the capabilities that you see here, they're all working in tandem to get from the textual matching to the neural understanding, how we call it. So what we saw with the chatbot example, that's a good example of neural search, where we're able to understand the context based on what we're writing. We're combining it with ChatGPT, and then we get a response back from Algolia, from the neural search engine. So neural search means that you can understand no matter what someone's typing in the search bar, you can understand, okay, what are they looking for? If they're using a synonym or something else that hasn't been typed before. There's a lot of different regions with different types of user behavior. So their neural search just picks it up like this and augments the textual relevancy. And then you have the other capabilities on top. So personalization, that speaks for itself. That's to personalize on a one-on-one basis. Synonyms, we saw in AI re-ranking. And then another interesting one is query categorization. So what this does is this identifies for your business based on your user behavior, what are the categories that are most likely to be relevant for this query, and they are then boosted. Imagine someone's looking for tomato. Do we want to boost the fruit, the tomato, or do we want to boost the tomato juice? Or if someone's looking for iPhone, do they want to see an iPhone case, or do they want to see the actual iPhones? If it's on a textual level, an iPhone case and iPhone phone, well, it's probably going to match exactly the same. So you probably want to boost the actual product first and then have the accessories. So that's something that the query categorization takes care of to re-rank what the output of the results is.
Awesome. And I think it's a case these days of lots of people within organizations that are responsible for IT or IT functions are being pressured to use AI. And quite often that's divorced from the, well, where is the real value going to be found? Which I think is, when we had the first session with you, was probably the one thing that really stood out for me, is going, well, here was a practical adoption of AI driven by a solid business case to go, you're utilizing AI for the purposes that it perhaps finds as a sweet spot, really, that intelligence and understanding of interaction and capability in order to optimize an engagement with a customer. Consequently,
Exactly.
a better experience, consequently, better sales results. And is it a case that you're having customers come to you that they're starting with the question of, we want to use AI, or are they coming from a business perspective and going, we believe we can do better in our e-commerce channel?
We have the two, but the last few months, I would say more often, it's one where people say, okay, our CEO decided we need to do something with generative AI. What can we do? What do you do? And they have some examples where we then help them take a step back to understand, okay, why is it that you want to do something like this? What is the current baseline? So what's your current conversion? What's the current average order value? And that's where those business cases really help to help you create that business case. But because even for them, if their CEO says we want to do something with generative AI, well, they will still need to create a business case in order to get the budgets approved. So that's something where we help businesses take a step back, map out what they have today and what it could look like, look at the benefits, and then map that against the costs.
And for you, in terms of customers, I'm aware that you've worked with some of the largest organizations and some of the biggest markets, the likes of Walgreens across in the USA, major pharmaceutical area space in terms of what they do, but also retail in terms of their outlets, etc. It is Algolia and is search as a service for everybody in terms of size and engagement, or is there a sweet spot that really defines the type of organization that this best fits with?
The beauty of our API is that it can be applied across different industries and different sizes. So for example, we have customers on Shopify. That's why we have a Shopify plugin. We have customers that have everything custom built and then decide that they want to take away the load from their development team of keeping the search up, and they want to put in a SaaS search API. So it really ranges from the smallest startups that are using us on a very small pay-as-you-go plan to the largest organizations. We also have a pricing model that scales as you grow, so that it's not going to break the bank. So that's quite important. Also, our tools cater both to business and technical people. We even have competitors that are using us for their documentation search, which I think is also quite interesting. So a lot of different applications, either from content, documentation, support use cases, to more the e-commerce type of space.
So really some of the advice today is, if you're not sure, ask Valérie and she will have the answer for you. Yeah.
I'll get the answer for you.
Yeah. But Valérie, in terms of the tech that's sitting in here, there's some amazing things, and I'm assuming that's backed by quite significant R&D within Algolia to refine these things, improve these things, and add new things. See, I am coming to the new things eventually. Can you tell us a little about what goes on in terms of product development on the Algolia side?
Yeah, so today we have about 800 people in the whole organization. I would say that a little over half of that is R&D and tech. So we have a lot of people, that would be over 400 people that are continuously developing on our search capabilities. We also have a huge AI practice of people that are continuously working on our recommendation engines, that are continue developing on neural search. So that's really key for us, as well as what we often do is we take some of our clients up in our advisory boards to help shape certain functions and features. Recommendations, for example, it's something that is built together with Gymshark. So 2 years ago, they said, we want to do recommendations and we cannot find a tool that's good enough to do so. Can you help us get there? So then we co-developed that together, like with input from them. And that's how we are where we are today. So a lot of it is driven by research studies, work that we do together with our clients, things we hear from the field. And then we have the big AI and R&D practice that is continuously working on the new capabilities.
Fantastic. And Valérie, if any of our audience or anybody that watches this little insight session on a recorded basis later has questions or is interested in a demonstration or taking those first steps with you, what's the best way for them to action that with you?
Feel free to connect to me on LinkedIn or send me an email. That's just valerie.waterschoot@algolia.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn, and then I'm happy to have a chat.
Fantastic. Again, I will ask if anybody has any questions or any particular items they want to cover. I have, as usual, been terrible and abused your time and asked all my questions. Hopefully that's covered a few things for other people as well. I'll just do a quick check and see if there's anything there. So sorry, there was a question from, I think it's Kian Stradum. Noticed a lot of web-based examples, as in e-commerce sites, etc., that have the capability within them. Does this integrate well with apps too?
Exactly. So apps and mobile, it's something that's super popular at the moment. So if you look at the Flink example that I gave for the grocery retailer here in Europe, they actually only use us for their app. So if you download the Flink app, you're navigating through the assortment, that's where Algolia will power that. We also have other use cases that are using us for document search, for example, within specific SaaS applications. So anywhere where there's any types of items or products to discover, we can help make that process more data-driven. We also have a lot of front-end components, and maybe if I really quickly show you our documentation, this is a little bit more technical, but happy to help you go through that afterwards. But we have also front-end UI libraries for mobile. So here you can see for iOS and Android, we have a lot of those frameworks built already, so that you don't need to start from scratch if when implementing something like Algolia.
Fantastic.
And indeed, on mobile, relevance is even more important, because if you're opening a certain page on an app, you can only see a few products. So that's where relevancy of the first few items is really critical.
And you mentioned while you were speaking early on that Algolia really is there to support omni-channel capability in terms of where that is. So I'm assuming that effectively across the different digital channels that you might be facilitating, be that web, be that app, or bot integrations and that part of things, that the persona that you're building up, either for the individuals or per channel personas, is something else that's helping to shape the experience and feedback into those. So if someone does start mobile, goes web, you're basically aware of where they've been, what they've done, and now what to recommend, what to position, and how to optimize that experience again.
Exactly. So that's across all the different channels. Also, if you have someone in the store and they check out with their loyalty card, and then they go online and navigate on the website, that you're able to connect the dots, that that's the same person, and that you can connect the purchases they've done in the store with what they're looking for online as well.
First world capability with AI enhancement. Fantastic stuff. Valerie, I've only got a couple minutes of your time left, but I am going to ask the question because it's always a great tease for what might come next. What is in the pipeline at Algolia? What is there that folks can go, well, in just a short while, we'll be able to, what is that?
So the capabilities with generative AI are endless, as we've seen with ChatGPT. So one of the first steps right now, what you saw with the chatbot, for example, but also being able to generate new things. So that could be generating new attributes on a product level. So imagine your data is not 100% good, that you can, together with generative AI, clean up your data, add new attributes, for example. So that's something that's tied to generative AI, and that could be a nice little project that might come down the pipe. I can't make any promises. But then also on personalization, being able to do in-session personalization in real time, so that immediately once you click on something, that everything changes based on what you've clicked on. And also being able to personalize from the get-go. So based on where is that person coming from, what it could be the spending behavior of this person without that person having done anything on the website. So using other types of data points to predict what that person could be looking for. So way more proactive than reactive personalization.
Great. And perhaps just a last question from Jonathan Dickinson. He's asking, is there B2B potential? I know you did give the example earlier on in terms of the construction side, which would potentially be in that space, but perhaps you can just give a bit more detail there.
Definitely. So what we see in the B2B space is there's often a few struggles that's on the personalized pricing, personalized assortment, and that people haven't really invested a lot in the customer experience within B2B typically. So we've now seen that change quite a lot the last year, where a lot of B2B companies are moving towards a more customer friendly type of experience, and where they've seen massive uplifts in the ROI numbers and in conversion. So definitely it's the same as in an e-com use case. The only difference, as I said, is personalized pricing and personalized assortment, but that's more of a technical thing. But apart from that, we have a ton of different B2B use cases. I can add this to the deck, and once we share the deck, you can have access to this as well. But these are some of the B2B use cases that we have, some of the metrics, increasements in conversion, product views, relevancy, but also the time to market is quite massive.
And in this space, Valerie, perhaps this is the last bit, and we'll wrap up with this at the end. There is, of course, always the question around data protection and compliance with acts such as GDPR across in Europe, and even locally within the South African market, the POPIA Act, in terms of data protection and regulation of how that data is used. Is that something that is obviously fully taken into account in terms of Algolia and the data that's used?
Yeah, that's a super important question that we always start with once we go through the legals with our customers, and that's the first thing their legal department asks. But we are a first-party cookie. So we're not a third-party cookie, so we don't have an issue with that. And on top of that, everything can be anonymized. So we don't need to know who is which user. It's just a user token, for example. And then apart from that, Algolia is not sharing any data with any of our other customers. Everything that is in your environment stays there. We at Algolia don't have access to it. I cannot view my customer apps unless they give me access. They can, for example, give me read access if I need to review something. But apart from that, they are the full owner of that application, their data. And we don't share anything with other people. Also, we have different regions. So for example, if you want to be hosted in Europe, or you want to be hosted in Singapore or somewhere else, that's all possible. And that data stays in that data center.
Awesome.
And then I see that there was one last question from Alfie as well about partners. Alfie is asking, if I don't have the internal resources, are there partners I can work with to help me implement Algolia? which is, of course, one of the reasons that we're doing this together with DVT, so that we work together on Algolia is obviously not going to do the implementation. That's something why we have our great partners like DVT, who have all the knowledge about the tech stack of the clients and can help you get to market in the most efficient way.
We can indeed. Lovely question, Elfie. Well done.
Perfect.
Valérie, thank you again so much for joining us today. I think that has again raised levels of interest and excitement around Algolia and search with AI understanding. I would just ask, perhaps just share with folks your contact details one more time so that they can get hold of you and look towards perhaps doing a demonstration with you.
Yeah, sounds good. I will. Oh, I can share the screen, or do you say you want to share it afterwards with via the email? Here is my full. So
yeah, we will send it out via email as well. But if anybody needs to contact Valérie directly, or feel free to reach out through DVT, and we will happily get you in contact with Valérie at any point in time.
Exactly. So this is my full name, and my email address is @algolia.com.
Awesome.
Super. Well, thanks again for hosting us, Carl. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Valérie. Again, we appreciate your time and the excitement that really comes with looking at how AI is really being used for valuable purposes within products like Algolia. It absolutely makes sense to the folks out here that are working in the e-commerce space. I know that there's probably a number of representatives of that on the call today, and I'm sure there'll be a few more that will want to be talking to you directly.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Carl. Thanks for setting everything up, and looking forward to speak with all of you afterwards.
Indeed. Thank you, everybody, for attending. As usual, these DVT Insight sessions bring you some of the leaders in technology to actually talk you through the opportunity and the implementation of that. There are future sessions coming up, and I have no doubt we will have Valérie back again to show you a little bit more about Algolia and what comes next with generative AI. Thank you all for attending today. We look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thanks, everyone.